Welcome to Emery Thompson Batch Freezers. I'm Steve Thompson, president of Emery Thompson and third generation manufacturer of batch ice cream freezers. This is our lunch with the president. Welcome. We're going to have a lot of people in the audience today, as well as about 1,000 watching worldwide, and we welcome you in all the different time zones to our seminar today. Sadie, come here. Sadie's busy greeting everybody. This is our head of security, Sadie Thompson, and you'll see her drift in and out. And we'll get started right away. A couple of ground rules to all of you here and also on the web. As you have questions, raise your hand and ask me right away, because if you wait a few minutes or so, you forget the question. So interrupt me anytime, no matter what I'm doing. Just interrupt me. If Sadie follows you out the door, please send her back. Don't let her leave the building because she'll follow anybody anywhere. And we'll make a few batches of different products and we'll take a break around 10 o'clock. Neil Williams is going to be here from turnkeyparlor.com. And by the end of the day, I think you'll be pretty full of ices and ice cream and everything else. We have an agenda that is up on the website. Ken has put it up there, which will give you all the formulas of what we're going to make. So let me first tell you about what a batch freezer is. This is a batch freezer. We all probably grew up running one of these, the old-fashioned rock, salt, and ice. And the way this worked is you have the outer wood tub and you have the inner cylinder. Inside the inner cylinder is what they call a dasher or beater, and then the crank to turn and spin everything. And what happens here is you fill it with ice and rock salt, just the type of stuff you put down on your driveway if you're in the north in the wintertime. And the purpose of the rock salt is, as you know, your lakes freeze at 32 degrees, but the oceans never freeze. And the reason the oceans don't freeze is because they have salt in them. And by having the addition of the rock salt, we can take that 32-degree Fahrenheit temperature down much colder so that we can make ice cream. So that's the purpose of the rock salt. This is what my grandfather, Emery Thompson, was using back in 1902. He was working at a department store in Lower Manhattan on 14th Street. Back then, there were no ice cream parlors. You went to a department store to get your ice cream, or you went to a pharmacy. And so he was working in a Macy's type of business in 1902, and he was working 16-hour days running machines like this to make the ice cream. So it was very labor intensive, and he needed to do something about it. So he went home to New Rochelle, New York, and invented the world's first patented batch freezer. You can see that on our website. The patent is up there. He invented that in 1903 and got the official patent in 1905. Now, I know there's some confusion. One of the Italian companies claims that they invented it in 1917, but our original patent is from 1905. Emery Thompson invented the batch freezer, the modern day batch freezer. And the company has grown since then, and the machine has modernized. This is a 12-quart machine. We rate our machines by finished capacity. A lot of companies, actually everyone else, will rate their machines by how much the cylinder holds. Let me just take this apart and show you. They'll say that how much, if you filled this up with water and took the beater out of it, that's what they rate their machine at. We don't do that. We rate by finished capacity. How much is actually going to come out of this machine when you take it out. And this one is 12 quarts. So I'll open this up and show you how it has changed over the years from the old rock, salt, and ice. The first thing was in 1919, we went from the vertical cylinder to a horizontal cylinder. Why? Because of Newton's law. If you put product into a vertical cylinder like a Catabriga or a Stolting, the product is going to fall to the bottom third of the can. The nuts, the cookies, the bananas, if you can put them in there, if they allow it, which we do, are going to fall to the bottom. Also, when you want to go to wash this machine out, this vertical cylinder, you have to fill it all the way to the top. It's got to overflow the top. Otherwise, this area up here isn't going to get sanitized, and that's not very sanitary. By turning it sideways, everything will mix and blend in the machine more evenly, front to back. The design of the dasher is to blend it all around. And in order to sanitize it, which I'll do in a second, all you have to do is throw in a gallon or two of water, and it's going to mix all around the cover, the cylinder, the whole works. So in 1919, that's a long time ago, we went to horizontal freezing cylinders. And today, every major ice cream is made on a horizontal freezing cylinder. Your Breyers, Haagen-Dazs, Hershey's, Bluebell, Ben & Jerry. These are all companies that Emery Thompson put into business, actually. But then they grew much, much larger over the years and went on to what's called a continuous freezer, 1,000 gallons an hour minimum. Now, this is the beater, the old beater. Let me show you that. The old one was a casting, and it had wood paddles. Not terribly sanitary, but that's what they had back in 1903. What we're using today is a stainless steel beater, and these are the blades, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Very heavy plastic, which are going to last you about 6 years or longer before you have to do anything at all to them. And being spring-loaded, it's going to scrape the walls very efficiently, and when the product is ready, it's all going to come out at once, every bit of the ice cream. So I just put that in. As you can see, there's very few moving parts. Put that on, close up the door, and the first product we're going to make today is going to be pumpkin ice cream. Now, I like to experiment. I have never made pumpkin ice cream, so I'm afraid you're all my guinea pigs. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I just thought it would be fun to have something seasonal to start off with. Now, when you start up the machine, before you start up the machine, you want to kill any bacteria in there. My hands have just touched everything, so we want to kill off any bacteria that would be in here. I use Sterasheen. The company is S-T-E-R-A, Sheen, S-H-E-E-N, and the parent company is Purdy Products. When we send out a machine, we put a packet of Sterasheen in there. You can find it on Google. You can Google Sterasheen. And basically, it's a chlorine-based product that will kill off any bacteria. This one also removes milkstone, which is a byproduct of dairy ice cream. And so I mix it up according to the directions and pour it into the machine. Now that dripping is me. Malcolm Stogo from Ice Cream University and the most prolific writer of ice cream books always chastises me for not having a bucket underneath the machine while I'm doing this in case I spill just like I'm doing. But that's half the fun. Now, I'm only going to turn on the beater. If I turn on the beater and the refrigeration, it's going to make one giant ice cube. I often hear from people, the most common mistake people make, especially with Italian ice, is they call up, they've had the machine for 3 or 4 years, and they say, "Steve, it's banging and clanking. What's it doing?" Well, 99% of the time they have put in their water and their cherry juice, and they've forgotten the sugar. Without the sugar, you have nothing to freeze, so it makes one giant ice cube. So we just have water in here right now, so I'm not going to turn on the refrigeration. I'm just going to turn on the beater and let that run. I had already pre-sterilized this machine, so normally you would run it for a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever your health department in your town says to do. They're your guide, and their advice is what you take. But if they say run at 60 seconds, you run at 60 seconds. Now, when we make ice cream today and it's ready, I will turn off the refrigeration, I'll open the gate with the beater spinning, and the ice cream will all push out everything from front to back. And if when we make Oreo cookie banana at the end of the day, all those cookies, all those bananas are going to be evenly dispersed, and they're going to come out. Right now, I just have water in here. So if I open this gate with it spinning, I'm going to get a bath. That water is going to go all over. So I turn off the speed. drain that out. Now, if you follow the directions on the Sterashine, you don't have to rinse. It's designed for a certain amount of water, and it does just a perfect job. So this is now all sterilized, and we're ready to go. Is there anybody who didn't get a agenda coming in? Let me pass these out. This is everything we're going to make today. And if you came in late, I was mentioning that I've never made pumpkin ice cream before. And so we'll see what happens. Who else? You both need them?
Yeah, we can just
I'll let you pass. Oh, you can pass them around, and if you'll pass them over there. I see Sadie's found a new friend over there. Yeah, she's lying. Oh, here she comes. There's no food yet, Sadie. Now, you're not allowed to have dogs in the ice cream room, but it's my ice cream room. So we're going to ignore that today. Close the gate. A lot of times I've just drained the water out, the Sterashine water out, and I'm pouring my mix in. It's going all over the floor, and the brain just doesn't work fast enough to say, what is going wrong? Well, I left the gate open, so remember, close the gate. Now, we're going to get our flavors over here. I've got my pumpkin. And those of you watching, the next product we're going to be making is an Italian ice, so hang in there.
Now, is this just store-bought product here that you mix?
I'm going to repeat your question so that the people on the internet can hear it. And the question was, is this just store-bought? Yes. I try for these demonstrations whenever I can to buy everything at the supermarket. Our supermarket is Publix, and they're just fantastic. And because I like to show you that you can make ice cream anywhere in the world with just simple, readily available ingredients. There's not a lot of magic to it. And it's personal taste. I was speaking to someone last night. I was telling him about Malcolm Stogo's book, which I'll show you in a bit. And the reason I use it and like it, it's got 300 recipes in it. Let's say I don't know how to make pancakes. I am not going to sit at home and experiment with flour and sugar and try to come up with pancakes. I don't know how to do it. I'm going to get the joy of cooking, and I'm going to read the section that says how to make pancakes. And that's going to give me, guaranteed by using that cookbook, a great pancake. Later on, though, I'm going to say, you know what, the Joy of Cooking use such and such in their pancakes. I'd like to add a little extra something to it. So I will take the Joy of Cooking recipe for pancakes and modify it to my personal taste. And that's the same with ice cream. If you start off with a great recipe, you can then take it from there and modify it to your own personal taste. So I'm not sure how much is in these cans, so I'm going to measure out what we've got here. And then we're going to use a dairy blend. We're like other industries. Ken, who's running our soundboard this morning and is my IT man, Ken has different, bits and bytes and bauds and gigabytes, and I don't understand 1/3 of it. And I found out that we're the same way in the ice cream business. We come up with fancy terms for simple things. Like the dairy product right now is stored in a mixed storage box. Sounds very fancy. A mixed storage box is nothing more than a refrigerator. And people say, well, how big a refrigerator do I need? How big a mixed storage box? Well, how often does the dairy deliver? If the dairy delivers once a week, you need a big mixed storage box. If they deliver twice a week, you need one not as big because they're coming twice a week. And so one of the terms that we've come up with, what do we have that we want in here? 3/4 of a quart of pumpkin. And I'm not there yet. We use milk, cream, sugar, and an ingredient you wouldn't know to use in your ice cream, which is skim milk. Skim milk is heavy cream with all the fat removed. So skim milk is all the good stuff that's in milk, but without the fat. Over there for the coffee, I have skim milk. I've gotten used to the taste. That's a secret ingredient in ice cream that doesn't show up in any home recipe. But a dairy knows that. And so what a dairy does is they buy from the farmer, from the cows, milk and cream, and they separate it out to skim milk, and they put it all through a pasteurizer and homogenizer, and what they come up with is this, a blend of milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. That came out of the cow 2 days ago. So it is really, really fresh. But we give it this horrible term. It says right on the package, ice cream mix. Ugh, mix sounds terrible. You know what ice cream mix sounds like? It sounds like this. It sounds like non-fat dried milk. You know, that's my idea of mix. And that's not what's in here. We're not using a powder to make our ice cream here in the United States. There are cases when you will have to, and I'll explain that in a minute. But for the most part, we're using fresh dairy product. And it's kept refrigerated. It's sold by fat content. The federal government says if you want to call this stuff ice cream, it has to be at least 10% fat. Haagen-Dazs is 16% fat. Now that doesn't sound like a big difference, but let's say you buy whole milk at the supermarket, and the whole milk is 4% fat. The low-fat milk is 2% fat. Well, that's only 2%, but you know there's a world of taste difference between 4 and 2. So when we go from 10 to 12, it's a big jump. When we put Haagen-Dazs in business, Reuven Madison and his wife, they were running 16%. That was pretty unique in the United States. Ben & Jerry followed them, and a lot of other people did. Now, higher fat doesn't always mean it's better. Today I'm running 10%, the lowest level you can go and still called ice cream. So when you buy yogurt, it means it's below 10%. And a lot of other products. Gelato is usually below 10%. But the fat is just one component of your ice cream. And here's the thing I found out about moving down to Florida from New York, is up in New York, we would have what I call the fat wars. If you're running 14% fat, I'm going to run 16 just so I can say I'm the richest ice cream in New York, so there. And that is what goes on there, and that works well. But you get down to Florida and you sell 16% fat ice cream, and you step out into this 95-degree weather with 100% humidity, you're going to sweat to death. It's just going to kill you. So great ice cream parlors around Florida, it's not something they advertise, but they're running a lower fat ice cream. And they're doing it because it's actually more refreshing, and it's what you're going to want to eat. And but mix is just, or the dairy is just one component. The other two components are flavors. Here's my fresh pumpkin. And then the other component is air, which we're going to talk a lot about. Let me just measure this out. Now this is, again, milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. There's a shelf life of about, on this particular mix, about 10 days to 2 weeks. You can get a product called ultra high temperature, UHT, and it can be good for a month. So let me just stop here and put this back in the refrigerator so that we keep it fresh. Okay, one more. So the other ingredient to ice cream is the air content. A lot of people talk about low air, and ours are the only machines in the world where you can adjust the air content of the ice cream. Now, with that said, I have yet to meet anybody walk out of an ice cream parlor and say, oh man, I love that Jackson's ice cream in Dania, Florida. It just has the greatest air content of any ice cream I've ever eaten. That doesn't happen. We don't eat air. So it's just another item in the balance of what ice cream is. So let me pour this in.
Is the air what changes the consistency from like creamier, smoother?
The question, does the air make it creamier or smoother? No, the fat content makes it creamier and smoother. And you can go too high. I've had 18% fat ice cream, and it was just too rich. I've made 24% fat ice cream for Godiva, and it was absolutely horrendous. We all ate it, and an hour later, everybody in the factory was sick because the human body just can't take in 24% fat. So you can overdo anything. You can overflavor an ice cream. In fact, if you put too many chips in your mint chip ice cream, it won't even hold together. It just falls off the cone. But the air content does change the thickness of the product. It makes it heavier. Now, well, let me put this in, and then I'll explain what I'm doing with the air. And again, I haven't made this before, so I don't know what we're going to find. Hopefully it'll be good. They are quiet machines. I have not turned on the compressor yet, but even so, you won't notice a lot of noise coming out of it. It's we build our machines to last 40 or more years, so they're extremely rugged. Now we'll just get that down in there. Very large opening, so it's very easy. As you're going to see today, I can put whole nuts, cookies, bananas right into the machine. Every other machine on the market, if you want to put Oreo cookies into the machine or chocolate chip or whatever, you have to grind them up first and then throw them in. In fact, they'll void your warranty if you throw whole candies into the machine, which I'll tell you about. Let me just get a little more of this going. The cinnamon is going to be a dressing. I'm going to use a little vanilla extract. Here we go. I use vanilla in almost everything because it brings out the flavor of what I'm making. And I'm currently, today I use Lockhead Vanilla, great family business. Another great one is Nielsen Massey, another family business. These are American companies who have been around for a very long time, making a fabulous product. Okay, so I think everything's in there. Ice cream mix, vanilla extract, cinnamon I'll add later, the puree, and we'll turn on the refrigeration. Set a timer. I am known as Mr. Redundancy, so I'm going to set even another timer. Now, something about the machines and these timers. That's about a $6 timer. And I don't have a timer on the machine. I don't have a lot of gadgets. I don't have any gadgets on the machine. I do have the infinite overrun control, which I invented 11 years ago, but that's not a gadget. In fact, I'm at maximum air content right now, which is 100% overrun. So I'm running at 234 RPMs. I want to cut that air content down a little bit. So I'm going to slow her down to 150. 160, that sounds good. That's going to give me a lower air content. I can go all the way down to about 38% overrun or all the way up to 100% overrun. Is everybody here familiar with the term overrun? Is there anybody who isn't? Okay, overrun. Doesn't apply to Italian ice, and we'll get to Italian ice next. Overrun is the air content in the ice cream. To make it easier, again, like I said about Ken with his computers, he's got all these exotic terms that I don't understand. So let's change overrun over to proof. Everybody understands proof. Proof and alcohol. If you have 100 proof rum, it's 50% alcohol and it's 50% other stuff. So if I run the machine at 100 proof, it means that I have 50% dairy and 50% air. That's 100 proof ice cream, and that's the federal maximum by law. Now I take the term proof and throw it away and substitute overrun. So if I have 100% overrun ice cream, it is 50% dairy and 50% air. And then I can lower that proof or that overrun by slowing the drive down. Now you say, what big deal? You know, I got a dimmer switch on the lights here and I dim them down. You know, what's so hard about putting a dimmer switch on my batch freezer? Well, when I dim down the lights in the dining room, I'm taking 60-watt bulbs and dimming them down to about 15 or 20 watts. I'm taking the power away from the light bulbs. They're not as strong as they were. If I dim down the batch freezer, my 3 horsepower motor is now dimmed down to a 1/4 horse. I got all this heavy product in here, and it's churning into a heavier semi-solid product. My motor is going to lock up at a 1/4 horse. I need 3 horsepower to run this machine. So my infinite overrun control, of which this is just the control, the electronics are protected in the back. My infinite overrun control, no matter what speed I run it at, high or low or medium or anywhere in the 234 speed range, it's still going to give me a 3 horsepower motor. I still have all the pulling power. Nobody else has that. So it means that this one machine can not only make any air content ice cream, it can also do the low overrun gelato, it can do Haagen-Dazs, and of course it can freeze all the other products we're going to do today, sorbets, ices, the whole works. Now back to on the timer. If I put that timer on the Emery Thompson machine, the timer alone will cost $234 because it'll have to be National Sanitation Foundation approved, it'll have to be Underwriters Laboratories approved, and it'll be tied into the machine so that when the timer breaks, it's going to take down the machine. That's what happens with the Capigianis and the Stoltings and the Taylors and the Electro-Freeze. It takes down the machine. So now you got to buy a $234 timer. You have to call in a refrigeration guy at about $80 to $100 an hour. He has to install it, and you might be a day, 2 or 3 before you're back up and running. By buying this $6 timer at CVS Pharmacy, when this $6 timer breaks, guess what? I'm going to throw it out, and I'll go buy another $6 timer. And then I don't have all that hassle whatsoever. The other thing I see on machines is a water hose. Sounds like a great idea. Little spigot right here with just enough to reach over to here. Well, what if I spill pumpkin down here? Or what if I spill pumpkin over here? The hose won't reach, and the hose is only cold water. You need hot water to clean up. So instead of putting another $300 item on the machine, take your money and get a sanitary garden hose. A little trick. A sanitary garden hose is a hose that's used at boat docks. Those white hoses that you see down at the boat docks, they don't break down the way the regular garden hose says. The EPA and the FDA say that we all poisoned ourselves growing up by drinking water out of the garden hose. So you get a white hose, you have it on the wall, you can bring it over here and you can hose down the whole machine, and we haven't added another $300 of unnecessary cost to the machine. So that's why there's a lot of things that aren't on the Emery Thompson. No digital control panels other than this one, which is NEMA 4 waterproof. You can shoot a cannon of water at it and it's not going to affect it. Everything else is just very simple on-off switches, and of course, as you see everywhere, made in the USA. So while this is making ice cream, instead of me standing around talking to you or talking to a friend or watch what's going on, I start getting my next batch of flavor ready. So the timer is going to remind you, oh, it's time to go back and check the machine. Now people say, well, don't I want a timer that shuts off the machine exactly at the same time? No, you don't. Because vanilla ice cream might take 8 minutes to freeze, depending, based on the amount of sugar that's in it. This pumpkin ice cream, let's see what's in here. Pumpkin puree, evaporated cane juice, and sugar. Now, the more sugar I add to a product, the longer the freezing time. Ice cream might be 8 or 9 minutes. Italian ice might be 16 to 18 minutes. Italian ice, or sorbet, is all sugar and no fat. This product is fat and a little bit of sugar. But the more sugar I add to the product, the longer the freezing time. So my vanilla might be ready in 9 minutes. My pumpkin with the added sugar might be 9.5 minutes. The strawberry might be 11 minutes, so the timer is an average. If you're baking a cake at home and the Joy of Cooking says 350 for 25 minutes, what do you do after 25 minutes? Do you pull it out of the oven and say, great, now we're going to do baked potatoes? No, you take a straw and you check it. That 25 minutes is a guesstimate of how long it's going to take. And that's what's true about ice cream. The timer will give me an estimate to go back and just take a look, and I'll show you how I do that. Now, what you shouldn't do, and I talk to people on the phone all the time, and they say, oh my gosh, I didn't listen to you. Don't talk on the phone when you're making ice cream. Don't be serving customers. Don't let people come in and interrupt you. I have a friend, Gary, Gary's Ice Cream up in Chelmsford, Mass. And Gary has a big sign over his ice cream store, over his ice cream room, says, I love all of you, but stay out. I'm making ice cream. And the point is, he doesn't want to be bothered when he's making ice cream because, gee, I don't want to forget, did I put citric acid in the lemon ice or did I put Clorox bleach? I'd hate to make that mistake, so you stay concentrated. Jumping around just a little bit about that. Any cleaning supplies that you have in this room that you're using for the floor or the machines or anything else, take them out of the room before you start making ice cream. That way you don't have to wake up at 2 in the morning and say, did I put Clorox in the lemon ice by accident? If they were never in the room, you'll never have to worry about it. You know how if you drop a wine glass in your dining room, you drop it on the floor, you'll find shards of glass in the living room, you'll find them in the kitchen, it just shatters everywhere. Now, Pyrex makes this in glass, and if you drop it, yes, it's going to break into 2 pieces, you can see it. But I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to fear that I have gotten something foreign into my ice cream. So everything in this room is plastic. If it's glass, it has no place in here. I'm going to check this ice cream now and see how we're doing. There goes my first timer. What I'm looking for is to open the gate and close it quickly, up, down, and see that it cuts off like a knife went through it. See how that's cutting off like that? That's almost ready. I'm going to give that a little bit longer. And is this one going too? Yeah. We'll give it just a little bit longer. If I'm doing production, if I'm going to make 5 batches of pumpkin, because pumpkin's a popular flavor, I'm going to pull it out right now, get it in the freezer, and let the freezer do the rest of the work. I want to give it to you all, so I'm going to pull it a little bit stiffer so you'll get to try it. You are, however, going to say, oh, you know what? That ice cream tastes a little bit warm, and it could have used a little more flavor. The ice cream will enhance in flavor over the next 24 hours. It's what they call, it blooms. So you can taste the ice cream now, but I guarantee you this time tomorrow, it's going to be even stronger and better. So that's good to know. We'll check it again. See how it's cutting off? That's doing well. Going to give it a little bit more. And then when I want to take it out, I'll open the gate and I'll push it all out. I will also increase the speed to get the last bit out. Now, Paula, my wife, is up in New York today, and I promised her this flavor, so I'm going to draw just 1/2 gallon for Paula. We'll set that aside. Turning off the refrigeration now. So Paula, that's yours. And watch how fast this comes out. Open that up, refrigeration's off, turn up the speed to get it out the rest of the way. No other machine can discharge all its product this quickly. Smells good. Now, in making ice cream, today I'm going to have to rinse the machine out. But normally we would start with light flavors and work down. So we're not always rinsing out the machine. We would do vanilla, then we would do butterscotch swirl, because that's vanilla ice cream with the swirl added outside, maybe chocolate swirl. Then we would do, say, strawberry. Then there's so little left in the machine, almost nothing. We would then go to Bordeaux cherry, which is darker than strawberry. Then we go to black raspberry, which is darker than the previous flavor, and so on. So we're making all these flavors without ever rinsing out the machine. The flavors don't get mixed together because there's next to nothing left in the machine. And what little there is coating the parts is going to be covered over by the next darker flavor. Now, pumpkin is unique. Pumpkin is a very intense flavor. I would probably rinse out just like it was chocolate. So you don't plan your production. You don't make chocolate and then go to vanilla. You make vanilla and then go to chocolate. And that's it. So I'm going to have you come up, and we're all going to try this at once and see what we got. Now, the cinnamon would be just for decoration. See if I can show you this. We would just sprinkle a little on top, just for looks. I'll show the camera that. Now, for those of you who came in late, we have the agendas around somewhere. We can give you one, too. And as questions come up, please just interrupt me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions while we're talking. So everybody, come on up, and we'll try this. I'll give it the first try. Wow. That's good. I love my own products. I should. There's spoons right there. Okay. That's hard to do. But we have trash cans. Here comes Sadie. You can have seconds and thirds, but we're going to be doing this all day. And by the end of the day, you're going to say, no, no more, please, anything but. This has got a good flavor. And remember, that flavor is going to get more intense as time goes by. Okay, let me just go over this way quick. I'll go back and forth. Yes, if you pull it too firm, then it won't come out of the machine. So you have a balance between the two. There you go. Spoons are there. Sadie, you're waiting in line so nicely. I'm sorry, you can't have this one.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
I would share a very small one.
All right. There's little spoons there.
And we were in late, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. We're glad you're here.
This flavor is
Pumpkin.
pumpkin. This is the intense one.
Yes.
Did you do last? Color?
The question is, do I ever add color? Yeah, sometimes. I used to make fun of Baskin-Robbins and call them the wonderful world of color until I sold them a test machine for their lab. Now I think they're wonderful. So people know that you're adding color. I mean, if you're making pistachio ice cream and it's bright green, it didn't get that way from the pistachios. But sometimes in some markets, you've got to do it. You know, if everybody's, super health kick store, then no, I'm not going to add that to it. If you'll bear with me for a second, I'm going to fill just a couple of these half gallons. Don't give Sadie any ice cream. She ate my filet mignon last night, and I'm still mad at her. I know. I'll give you some later. Now, I could have filled these, of course, right at the machine, which would make it nice and easy. But I wanted you to see just how fast that comes out. Next, we're going to do an Italian ice. Now, there's a lot of mystique and lies about Italian ice. Everybody will tell you that, oh, you can't learn how to make Italian ice. My recipes come from my great-great-grandfather from Genoa, Italy. Well, guess what? I'm his great-great-grandfather, and I've never even been to Genoa, Italy. And I'm not even Italian. But they like to keep it secret and all that. And so today I'm going to tell you all the secrets. For the most part, Italian ice is sugar, water, and flavor. Sugar you buy at the supermarket. And sugar is sugar. Here is Publix sugar, fabulous product. It's the exact same stuff as Domino sugar, only it costs less. So it doesn't matter where you buy your sugar. Water is tap water. And the first question that comes up about water is, do I need to purify my water? My water's horrible. Do I need to purify it? Here in Brooksville, Florida, the water's pretty awful. Most of Florida, the water's pretty awful. Very high mineral content. Let me step off camera for a second and put these in the freezer. But here's the way to look at it. If my business is here in Brooksville, Florida, and I'm selling to people who grew up in Brooksville, Florida and live in Brooksville, Florida, I don't need to do anything with the water because they're used to the water. They don't know it's bad. They live here. I live here. And I'm used to the water. Now, if I open up an Italian ice business in Miami, where everybody is from the north and down on vacation, you need to do something with the water. You need to purify it, clean it up a bit. I don't think you have to go as far as reverse osmosis, but certainly a Culligan water type softener goes a very long way to improving the taste of the water. It's just like they say about bagels up in New York. You can't make a bagel outside of New York City. I would agree with that. The water is extremely important to a bagel. It's not quite that important to making Italian ice. Tell you some of them. You want to try that, Vonda?
What is it?
That's pumpkin. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
This is our, you can't see her, that's our Money Honey, our bookkeeper. She's married to Ken, our systems analyst person, and IT.
Do you get the purification system in your house, or do you just buy?
Do you buy purified water, or do you do it yourself? You do it yourself. Otherwise, you're paying someone to bring jugs of water. Yes, I have jugs of water here at the factory. They're delivered, but we only go through a bottle a week. In the Italian ice business, you'll go through a lot more than that. No, Sadie. Sadie's trying to mooch some free ice cream there. So let me get to this recipe. Again, it's just sugar, water, and flavor. Now, depending where you are in the world, I was just setting up a business in Ghana, in Africa. That's a long way to be shipping gallon jugs of flavor. It's going to cost far more to ship these gallon jugs to Ghana than the flavor itself is going to cost. So if I want to make pina colada, as we're going to do today, in Ghana, I'm not going to buy this product. I'm going to buy the small cans of Coco Lopez and use that, or I'm going to take coconuts and shred them and put them in boiling water, and that will leach out all the coconut flavor. And then I'll add maybe some coconut extract, and I will come up with something that's suitable for the market that I'm in and for what I can bear to pay to do it. Today we're going to use an iRice product. National also makes some, and so does Limpert Brothers. I do like the iRice out of Philadelphia, and it's a very good product. This is called a base. There's 3 levels of Italian ice. There's fresh fruit or fresh frozen. Here's Publix red raspberries that I'm going to use today when we make the wine sorbet. So that, to me, is fresh fruit. There is the base, which is a gallon jug of flavor, and it's concentrated, and you pour this into the machine, and you'll have grape cherry or grape or green apple, pina colada. And then the 3rd level is my favorite, bubble gum. It's my favorite. I say that facetiously because I dropped one of these during one of these seminars. This stuff is so concentrated that this one bottle made this entire factory smell like bubble gum for about 3 months. Get out of there, Sadie. Hey.
She have it.
No, she can't. No, come on. Get. Well, she can't have it because it'll upset her stomach. Gee, I knew I might have to fight the crowds. I wasn't expecting to fight the dog. The bubble gum is super concentrated. To a 5-gallon batch, I might only be using 2 ounces of this. So if you had a whole gallon jug of bubble gum extract, it's going to last you for months, and certainly a lot cheaper to ship to Ghana than shipping a lot of these. And people say, well, I want to use fresh fruit. I can see doing the base, but I don't want to lower myself down to an extract. And that's when I say, what about bubblegum? I don't see any bubblegum trees growing in Florida. How are you going to make bubblegum ice for the kids? How are you going to make watermelon? Something like cantaloupe, you can use fresh cantaloupe, but any chef will tell you it's a very weak flavor, cantaloupe is, and you need to bolster it with an extract. And besides, when you're baking that birthday cake, you're using a vanilla extract, so it's a very common thing to do. So, oh, and cost-wise, fresh fruit, my cost is going to be per ounce 1.5 cents. So this 4-ounce portion, let me bring it over. That 4-ounce squeeze cup, which is the way we eat it in New York, that's going to cost me 6 cents using fresh fruit. If I use the base, it's going to cost me a penny an ounce, or 4 cents for this 4-ounce portion. And I'm selling this for $1.50. And if I use the extract, now we're down to a half a penny. This is going to cost me, food cost, 2 cents. And I'm still selling it for $1.50. It is the greatest way to make money selling sugar water because your food cost is so low. Dairy product is more expensive. We're about 6, 8 cents. No, even higher than that. Maybe we're around 12 cents an ounce to make ice cream. It kind of varies. The good thing about dairy products is they go up and down with what the cows are producing. And this summer was so hot and so dry, the cows weren't producing much, and so dairy products are up. Your milk cost is up. Your milk cost will go down when it starts to rain again. So I am going to use all the different levels. Now, if you speak to some companies, they will want, and I've blocked this out, they will want to sell you a sorbet or an Italian ice base. You know what's in here? Sugar and water. Now, I've got water over at the sink. I've got sugar that I picked up at the store. Why do I need to ship this stuff all over the country when it's just sugar and water? The answer is you don't. So don't. Just sugar and water and then your flavor. So let's get started on that. We're going to use a little countertop to do this. And I'll just sanitize this one real quick. I keep the sanitary water around so that anything that's going to come into contact with the ice cream or the ices, a spatula, maybe even my hands if I'm throwing in candies, I can just dip it in here and I know they're more sanitary than they were. Okay. So I turn that on, let that go for a few seconds. Again, I pre-sanitize this, so it's really very clean already. And we're going to use a quart of the pina colada base, and so I'll measure that out, give that a shake. We're going to use a pound of sugar, and I pre-measured that somewhere. We'll take one of these. And we're going to use 3.5 quarts of water. So let me go over and get that. Again, I'm just using the tap water. Any questions so far? No? Okay. Neil Williams walked in while I was talking. Neil owns the business turnkeyparlor.com. That's turnkeyparlor.com. And Neil sells everything else. He sells push carts, dipping cabinets, storage freezers, the works. And Neil and I have been friends for quite a long time. He also has the very best prices on everything. I'm from the Rush Limbaugh School of Marketing, and that is everything is done to make me look good. And Neil makes me look good, and therefore you say, oh, well, Steve told me where to get the dipping cabinets, and I got the cheapest prices. Is that a stop, Ken? A question? Okay, the question was, how can you make frozen yogurt in the batch freezer? Very simple, because the frozen yogurt is, again, a dairy product. It's milk, cream, sugar, skim milk, and they either add some live or dead culture, depending on how good a quality you buy. But it's going to be delivered the same way. It'll either be delivered in half-gallon containers like you see milk, or it'll be delivered in the 2.5-gallon bags from your dairy. You just pour it in the machine and run it just like we did the pumpkin. So that's cleaned out. We'll set that aside. And we've got make sure I've got everything here. The pound of sugar, I'll just throw in the water here. Sugar dissolves very easily in cold water. There's no trick to it. And let's see, I need a spatula. Here we go. So I'm just going to stir that up. So I've got the sugar and the water. I've got my pina colada base. And I'm going to I thought it would be fun to throw in some pineapple chunks. I sent my wife Paula out to get this. She bought Dole pineapple chunks. If I was going, I would have bought the less expensive house brand, and it would be just as good because, again, you're not serving it for dessert. You're throwing it into sugar water. I had a customer once who was from the Midwest. He wanted his own secret lemon ice formula. And I can tell this story now because enough years have gone by and I'm not looking for black Lincoln Town cars to take me away. And he said, I want my own secret lemon ice formula. I said, well, I don't know. That's going to take some time here. So I took a month and did nothing about it. And then I sent him an email and sent him my regular lemon ice formula for 5 gallons. So that was 7 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, 2 quarts of lemon juice, and to make it just secret from him, an ounce of vanilla. Whoa, an ounce of vanilla in 5 gallons of sugar water. I dare you to find it. But it was his secret formula. So he was happy. So it just goes to show the mystique behind this product is just, downright silly. I'm going to save a little bit of this sugar water to help me get the pina colada base down. Now, since this is since sugar water, Italian ice, and sorbet doesn't really have air in it, I don't need to change the speed. I'm just going to run at full speed. Yes, Ken?
Carol wants to know why you don't use egg yolks when you make ice cream and gelato.
If you want to put egg yolks in, Carol, she wanted to know why I don't use egg yolks. You can, but it's difficult because we all know the problem with eggs and salmonella. So you can't be using raw eggs. It's just too dangerous. There are alternatives. You can buy what's called a French mix, which is the basic mix that I bought, but they've added egg yolks to it. There's also powdered egg yolks available on the market. The largest manufacturer of that is a friend of mine who I grew up with, Kit Henningsen. And then there's a company in New Jersey called Paw Petty who has pasteurized frozen egg yolks. So egg yolks are not a problem. Also, Limpert Brothers sells an egg base that comes in a number 10 tin. A number 10 tin is 3 quarts. And you can buy the egg base in a can like this, and then you add whatever amount you want to get the egg flavor in there. That's French ice cream. Vanilla ice cream, because that's where you run into the vanilla and French vanilla, really comes up, there are differences depending on the region. In Philadelphia, they like their ice cream to have vanilla bean in it, little specks of vanilla bean. You try to take vanilla bean ice cream and sell it in New York, and we're going to swear it's a ground-up cockroach. We don't take it. We want our vanilla white. In the Midwest, they want it a little bit yellow color. That's the French. That's the egg base that's in there that turns it yellow, and that's fine. But different regions have different tastes. You had a question?
No, you still have a quart of ice cream sitting on top of your other freezer.
Ooh, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm going to put it in the freezer.
Quality control, Steve.
Yes. Lots of eyes watching.
The hardening cabinet, quick.
Lots of eyes watching. Okay, so I've got almost everything in here. If you took this formula and put it into ice cube trays and threw it in your freezer, it would expand 17%. That's the normal expansion of water. But that's all the air you're going to get pretty much into Italian ice. So, like I said, we're going to run at full speed. This is our 6-quart machine. Turn that on. Now, it's sugar and water. It'll take a little longer to freeze because the more sugar, the longer the freezing time. So I'm going to set a guesstimate on this one. Yes?
Can you explain the difference in air content and how much between ice cream and Italian ice, how much you're going to yield and expand?
Okay. Neil wants me to talk a little bit more about the expansion of Italian ice, but first I want to get my pineapple chunks in here. Now, I think I'll drain off the liquid. Now, you can't do this with any other machine because the openings are so narrow that it won't go through. But with an Emery Thompson, right in. Also, our freezing cylinders are 6 times thicker than anyone else's on the market. I'll show you how that works in a second. So everything just goes right in. Get in there. Go on. Okay. We got everything in there. Now, when the Italians, which is every other company, even Electrofreeze is Italian, it's Cappigiani, when the other companies make a machine, I'm looking for my pot and I don't see it, they will take a piece of stainless steel and stamp it, literally making a spaghetti pot. So you know how thick a spaghetti pot is, not terribly thick. And that is the extent of their freezing chamber. What we do is we take plate stainless steel, 6 times thicker. We roll it on a big machine that you'll see out in the factory. We heliarc weld it, we put on the back plate, and that becomes our freezing cylinder. Now that cylinder is so thick that I can put everything into the machine. Nuts, candies, cookies, fruits, the works go into the machine without it ever hurting the machine. It means you can use hot water to wash the machine. You have to use only lukewarm water on other machines, which about triples your time that it takes to make the product. Our machines last about 45 years or longer. I know they last longer, but I cut off at 45 because it just annoys me beyond that I'm talking to machines that were built in the 1940s. But one major reason is that freezing chamber is wrapped in copper tubing. No matter how fancy a car you have out in the parking lot, from the Ford to the Rolls-Royce, they're using aluminum tubing because it costs 1/10 what copper costs. The only problem with aluminum tubing is it wears out in 10 to 11 years. So any machine you buy with aluminum tubing will be finished in 11 years. We use only seamless copper tubing. It's inert, it'll go forever. Ken, you had a question? All right, Ken's going to pause while he changes tapes, and so he doesn't want me to talk, but you know, that's like stopping a mudslide. I can't stop talking.